Alrighty, welcome back. What are we? Episode 5, I think, maybe 6, 5 or 6 this year of Hammer's Happy Hour. It's a different one today. We went solo last week. We've got a guest in this week. However, you're not going to be able to see her face. You're not going to be able to know what her name is. You're not going to know where she works. All you need to know is that she is a nurse. She has had an interesting career as a nurse thus far. Has got some very fun and interesting stories to share, but due to an anonymity, she will remain on that side of the couch, and I will not be referring to her by name. So, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you on. And, it's very good. So far, I'll give you the rundown of what we've spoken about. We had my old man on who is into medicinal cannabis. We had the lead singer of a rock band. We had an ex-police detective. And then last week we had a random guy talk about his love life in the lead up to Valentine's Day. But now we've got you in here. So thank you very much for coming. Let's go all the way back to the start. Nursing, how did you get into it?
I guess nursing has been something that's important to me from a health perspective. I think that there's a lot of scary scenarios for a lot of people out there, and being a kind, friendly face and helping them through that transition is important, I guess. And for me, I've had various family members go through the healthcare system and had good, results, but also like there is leeway for things to happen and people not feeling heard or respected in that space.
So you went, very valid reasons. You're straight out of school. Are you straight out of school into studying nursing?
Straight out into nursing.
So what does it look like from a studying point of view? I know there's like it takes 8 years to be a doctor. My cousin's a doctor. It took 7 years of this, 3 more years of that, and now she's finally doing something.
Well,
What's
yes.
it like
Originally,
for you
I
guys?
wanted to go into being a doctor, but arguably,
Overrated.
I think that the compassion aspect of nursing is important, and that you have the extra time with the patient as a nurse. And yeah, I mean, I did the physics, the chem, the human bio, all the science behind everything I wanted, but I think the human bio aspect and what the body can really do and go through was the interesting part for nursing.
Did you ever have an experience growing up where you were in hospital or a nurse was kind to you, and was that a thing? It was like, oh shit, I could do that. I'm a nice person. Maybe that's what I want to do. Or is it just all the studying and the things that drew you naturally to it?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I was definitely that kid that broke my arm 3 or 4 times and also dislocated a shoulder.
How did you do that?
Well, I guess I was the tomboy in my family. So just climbing trees, falling out of trees, was scared of someone else on the other end of a monkey bar, so jumped off too soon onto my arm. Jumping off a bunk bed into another bunk bed, also re-broke in the cast. So, yeah, some really great choices as a child.
Nice. I don't think I broke a bone until I was about 17, I reckon. I split my head open a bunch of times, split my chin open like maybe 8 or 9 times, but didn't have to go into hospital until I was about 17, 18 for something, anything serious. But that's not the point. So you're into nurse. You've decided to study nursing. What's it look like? How long does it take? What's the university life like of a nursing student?
University is about 3 years, depending on like if you want to do anything specialized like midwifery, add-ons and stuff like that. So for 3 years you train to be a nurse. The first years, I mean, like they cover through like all the law and ethics of nursing, also like the human bio side of nursing, and also the practicals. So yeah, there was like a lot of really awesome tutors I had that would tell their stories as nurses. And yeah, I guess it is an interesting part of healthcare.
What's one law or ethic that people might not know? Like obviously you can't euthanize someone. That might be in there. But like, is that a little bit?
I mean, that's still coming into play, right? So health is ever changing and we're always progressing how we do things. So they are actually passing laws for voluntary assisted dying.
Yeah, I think that, I'm all for it. I think if you get to a point where it's like, hey, I'm sitting here and I can't fucking move. I can think, but I can't do anything. Like, get me out, help me out the way. You don't have to agree or disagree, but that's what I'm. It's just
no. I mean, like, there's always different opinions about it, right? So it's always important to have the evidence and the science behind what we're doing. And some people are very pro it, some people are against it. But I guess you have to take every case into consideration.
Is the ethics chat on that? Like, I'm just using euthanasia for an example. Is that like whether or not the person's in sound mind? How do you know if they're in sound mind?
For sure.
Like, yeah. I don't know. I mean, you're anonymous, so you can give your own opinion. What are your thoughts on that? Like, is it?
Yeah, I think whether someone is able to give their consent is always important in any aspect of healthcare, and whether they need a health proxy. There's always like.
What's a health proxy?
So, I mean, there's facilities out there that work for people that are cognitively impaired, for say, so that they are their guardian and helping them make medical and legal decisions.
Nice. I like that. Okay, so you've studied, you've done 3 years. Did you do any of these add-ons? Did you want to do midwifery? Did you want to jump on anything else that was tickling your fancy?
No, I think emergency nursing was an aspect that quite intrigued me. As I said, like the trauma component of coming into an emergency department is quite confronting, let alone for life-threatening situations.
Is that different than, is that an add-on, emergency nursing? Do you have to do any extra study for that?
No, so I guess in Australia we're quite lucky. So they cover through child and mental health in our nursing, whereas for say in the UK, like you have to specialise in those areas. So we touch base, but you still specialise. So say if you wanted to progress in the nursing field in a hospital,
yep.
If you went from one area quite high up, you couldn't necessarily transfer to another area and be as high up, if that makes sense, because it's not your specialty.
Oh, okay, that checks out. So you've done your 3 years. You're straight into emergency, or you just?
Yes, so I'm a bit of a niche one. So in order to actually get a job after high school, you have to write a paper application answering questions. They call it a selection criteria.
Okay.
Which, I don't know, I've got a girlfriend in South Australia who doesn't have to answer selection criteria to get jobs. So
is it just a WA thing?
I don't think so. There are a lot of selection criteria out there, but
what was one of the questions? Do you remember?
It's like, how do you show evidence-based nursing in your care?
Okay.
So they can be quite broad or they can be quite specific. I guess that's what they're asking. But most hospitals ask for a certain type of framework, and you're not really shown through university how to answer the framework. So for me, I always have that conflict of like, why does a piece of paper and how I answer questions determine whether I get a job, instead of how I am as a person and how my practical work has shown what I can do.
Do they take into consideration your practice? Because I've had a few friends that have been nurses or at least studying that sort of thing, and all I hear is that you go on prac and you're just a slave. You don't get paid. It's uni work, and it's just like you're doing all the shit kicker jobs.
It is.
Is that true? How was your prac like? How long do you go on prac for?
At my university, the longest prac I think I had was 6 to 8 weeks.
And so what's that look like? Are you genuinely just a tire kicker? Are you in there and they just shove you all the shit jobs and
somewhat? But again, like, you can play devil's advocate by doing that, because like they are so understaffed. So if you are an extra pair of hands, as long as you're checking back in legally.
Yeah. What was your first experience like on prac? You don't have to say where it was, but what was it like? I think
most people get an aged care prac, and some people get really
like?
Turned off nursing from doing that. But like, we are an aging population. It is very important to understand our geriatric patients. But yeah, it's kind of as horrible as it feels. Like, there are people there that don't understand where they are.
Yeah.
They don't understand where their family are. They're not well, and like, it has a grim feel sometimes going into a place like that. And often the nursing workload is one nurse to like all the residents in that place.
And how many residents are we talking?
So I guess that facility, there was like 24 in that area to one nurse.
And you're that nurse, or are you a prac student helping that nurse?
You're a prac student helping that nurse, but you're also helping the carers too. So as a registered professional, there is 1 to 24, but there are still carers and other people that help out with like the showering and the cleaning and the food and whatever else the
So that was your
need.
first experience into your prac world. You're into a geriatrics facility, or you're going to help out aged care.
Yeah.
And
because it is, again, an understaffed, underfunded area.
sounds like everything's understaffed and underfunded in
pretty
the nursing
much.
world. Yeah.
But I mean, like, that's the same with anything, right? So, like, with the elections coming up and the government, there's so many people that want the money and they want the time and they want the people. But I guess...
Where do you give it? That is the question.
Yeah.
But, okay, so you've done your old care, you've done your geriatrics, you've done that. And, I mean, I feel like that would take a special or a certain kind of person. Because from what I mean, I am naive in it, but, like, people forgetting things all the time, people shitting themselves and you're cleaning that up. And it's just like, it's old, but then it's like you're sort of jumping off a cliff, sort of, in terms of it deteriorates pretty quickly, I imagine, at that age. So does it take a special sort of mind or personality to sort of be there? And it obviously got to be very compassionate as a person.
Yeah. But I think that is important, I guess, through training, that you're getting those type of people that are compassionate about that, because they are the people that come into emergency departments needing help, and they are the people that are living longer now because of our technology and the way we nurse and treat people.
Are you that sort of stuff? So the stuff you see there, the stuff now that we're moving into emergency department, are you taught that stuff at uni? Are you prompted to expect that sort of stuff? Or is it just very written, here's some theory, here's some stuff, and now go out and experience the real world a little bit?
A little bit. I mean, there's only so much that written stuff can prepare you for. But I definitely think nursing takes a certain type of person. And I think my parents have both told me numerous times that they could never do what I do.
Yeah, God, no. So you've done, your first prac was there. You do a number of them, but you get out of university, you graduate, you get your certificate or whatever. Where do you go? What's your next?
Yeah, so getting back to the selection criteria.
Yeah, we're on selection.
So with WA Health, they had some issues with lead in the water and they needed to put funding towards that. The jobs that were available to hire nurses kind of depleted.
Okay.
So a handful of people got picked from my year. So then I could reapply in 6 months' time. Or I had someone reach out from the UK saying that they needed nurses over there and that they dropped the year out of nursing wait to transfer your degree.
So you went from uni straight over to the UK?
Yeah, pretty much.
What year was this, are we talking?
2019, when the world was a better place.
Okay, so it was understaffed then. You've moved to the UK. Are they still, what's the understaffing like over there? Is it pretty similar?
Or even worse.
Perfect.
Even worse.
Well, they got more people, so that checks out.
Yeah,
So you go over to a hospital over there. Can we say what hospital? Or is that still anonymous? You don't have to. You're over there. It's 2019.
I don't plan to go back to the UK, but it's also like I don't want to have disrespect for the people in that hospital or the way they're trying to do their job.
That checks out. You don't have to be disrespectful. I can do that, but I won't. So we're in the UK. We're on. Are you straight into an emergency department?
No, they did like a training program.
Yep.
So you have to switch your degree over. So again, it's more tests. So
Perfect.
Online tests and also physical tests. So someone watching me wash my hands for 30 seconds was quite comical.
Okay, so I don't wash my hands for 30 seconds. Just putting that out there.
Yeah.
I don't, I'll use soap after going to the bathroom, obviously. But I will routinely come home from footy training and just cook dinner.
Yeah.
I'm still okay. I'm not really sick. 30 seconds seems like a stupid amount of time to wash your hands. What is your opinion on that? Because I think 5 or 10 seconds does the job, and just a bit of water.
Well, actually, as health professionals, we have to yearly update watching people and doing our test for hand hygiene because it's so poorly done and it's transferring bugs from one patient to another.
Checks out, I guess, if you're a nurse. But for me, what are your thoughts for me? 5 seconds, 10 seconds, is that enough? Like if I'm going from footy training and cooking
It depends how thorough, because you have to do
Not
the full thorough in the nails, the thumbs, the palms. Yeah.
I'm not doing that. I'm 10 seconds max with water.
So, I mean, I guess you are building your immunity, so good on you.
Nice. I've seen videos of surgeons doing it, and they will like go elbow to shoulder deep with this weird orange scrub.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I guess they're cutting people up and getting in there. Okay, so we're in America. We're in the UK. We're in London. Is that where we're at?
South of London.
Okay, south of London. Never been to England. Don't know why I asked. We're south of London. We're in a hospital. You are doing you've finished your more tests. You've done your training. You're unleashed and ready to go.
Yeah.
What do you do? Are you emergency then?
Yes.
Okay, and how does that, like, what does that look like? I don't know what nursing is. How does it look? What are you actually doing in an emergency department as a nurse?
I mean, it's pretty overwhelming. The different drug names that we have here versus over there took some getting used to.
As in, like, illegal substances?
No, I mean, there is that aspect of it, but just brand names and things like that is completely different in the UK.
What do they call Panadol? Is that the sort of thing you mean? Or like I'm talking proper drugs?
Yeah, like proper drugs.
Okay, so what is it like? So you're getting used to that, you're getting used to the differences, but in terms of the feel of I'm all of a sudden in a foreign country and I'm in an emergency department and what's going on? Do you like
They say it's organized chaos, emergency departments, right? So I guess it's a sink or swim. And like for most of my life, I will just throw myself in the deep end and see how I go. I mean, not many people at 20 years of age would move countries to do what they do. So yeah.
Do you remember your first day on the ED ward?
Yeah.
Do you remember? Did anything like happen that you went home from and you were like, "Fuck, this was crazy"? Like, what happened on that first day?
I mean, it's all pretty crazy because it's just a flurry of things around you. But I think a stand-home thing that I took home was an elderly gentleman that decided that he wanted to be a brick on the floor in the way.
What?
Yeah.
He decided he wanted to be a brick.
He yelled. He was like, "Yeah, I'm a brick. You won't move me. I'm a brick."
Did you move him? How did he get moved?
Yeah, exactly. We just had to wait for him to decide
that
and make the decision himself. Yeah, that he needed to get off the floor for his safety and other people's safety.
What was wrong with it? What was, as in, obviously there's a lot wrong with him if he thinks he's a brick. But what was his issue? What did he come into the emergency department for?
Oh, I can't specifically remember. I think it could have been that he was constipated and needed some help.
Needed to shit and he's decided to be a brick in the middle of the ED floor.
But to his credit, he wasn't getting any attention. So if that's the way he wanted to get attention, that's
something
fair.
I did want to ask, because you see a lot I don't really know a heap about emergency other than, because I think I've been there maybe once or twice. Actually can't even remember. But you see in movies and TV, it's like go in there and say your arm hurts or you can't feel your arm and like fake a heart attack to get to the front of the line. Because from what, I mean, my older brother's been there and he had this like almost severed his leg and he was just sitting there bleeding. It was throbbing, but like, mate, that can wait. And he was in there for about 5 hours before he came through. Is that true? Like you get in there and say, "Oh, I can't feel my arm," and you just get rushed to the front. Like what's the process in assessing who's of more priority?
Well, they are quite senior nurses that are deciding that. So you have to do a triage course, and that's standardised between the whole of Australia.
Yep.
What is a Category 1, which is the most emergent, a Category 2, a Category 3, Category 4, Category 5.
What fits it? So we'll hit all those categories. What's a Category 1? A heart attack? That seems like it.
A Category 1, anything that needs literal immediate attention for that person to survive.
Such as?
So a heart attack, a seizure, someone that's like pre-arrest, so like pre-heart attack. There are a lot of aspects, depending on the nurse reviewing, that need immediate attention.
So is that why you see people on the TV or on these movies go, I can't feel my arm. Okay, you're having you're a pre-attack. Come straight to the front. Get in there. Yeah.
I mean, there is aspects of saying that you have chest pain that get reviewed now.
Yep.
So that
you can't just lie about it. Yep. So that's Category 1. You're about to die and you need immediate action. What's Category 2? Category 2
is to make it 15 minutes. So 15 minutes till medical attention. So still there, but not needing imminent. So you're not unconscious. You're not...
What's an example of a Category 2? Because 15 minutes seems like not a lot of time before I'm dead.
So
is that what it is? Is it 15 minutes before I'm dead?
So I guess the 15 minutes, so like, again, that would be probably chest pain. So chest pain has 15 minutes to be attached to a monitor to assess their heart rhythm, and also have a doctor there to be asking them what's going on.
If maybe if like my arm's hanging off and I'm bleeding out.
That's a category 1.
That's a cat 1? Okay, cool. So category 2, I've got 15 minutes until I'm dead. What's a category 3?
It's not 15 minutes till you're dead. It's 15 minutes that you're going to be okay for 15 minutes until a doctor assesses you.
So I'm going to be okay until 15 minutes.
Anyone that's going to be imminently dead.
Yeah. That's cat 1.
Yeah.
So category 2 is I am 15 minutes. You can leave me alone for 15 minutes and nothing overly bad's going to happen. Okay. So that's cat 2. Category 3.
Majority of them still go straight through the door because...
The category 2 guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about category 3?
Category 3, that would be someone with, like, say, abdo pain.
Appendicitis, does that jump in there, or does that kick
I
out
guess
the
we can't figure out what someone's abdo pain is. So a lot of abdo pains because of the vast area that it's covering, and there's so many different aspects to it.
Okay.
Like, it needs investigating within 30 minutes.
All right.
That being said, like, the lovely triage nurses and the weight room nurses are already doing things at bay, and a lot of emergency departments will have doctors that are assigned to the weight room to have things done.
Really?
Yeah.
How many? I guess it doesn't.
It's ever changing.
Yep. So
depending on the busyness, depending on the time of day.
What's your busiest time of day as an emergency department nurse? Even just an emergency
usually
department?
Like lunchtime, like 1 o'clock.
Okay, 1 o'clock. So if you're having a heart attack, do it before 10?
Yeah, well, I guess it's people that are like trying to push through their symptoms in the morning.
Yep. Or people who don't want to go back to work in the afternoon.
Yep.
That probably checks out. 4. Category 4, where are we at now? So we've just had a bit of tummy pain on cat 3, and now we're into the next step. What's category 4?
Category 4 is an hour to wait for a medical assessment. So that could be someone, that's probably a very large portion.
The majority of people fit in this one? Okay.
Yeah.
And what is it like?
That would be like someone coming in with the flu. So
please don't go to emergency for the flu.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
I mean, I'm not going to give.
Don't give health advice.
Not going to give health advice.
If you think you've got the flu, don't go to the emergency.
Yeah, don't spread it to everyone else in the weight room.
What else is what's another example of?
Well, it's like the reason I chose the flu, right, is because people can be unwell with the flu. So there is an infective component that needs investigating sooner rather than later. Okay. But it's also something that could be done with the GP.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so don't waste everyone's time in emergency if you got the flu. Category 5. This one is surely.
Category 5 is often someone that's asking for scripts refilled. Unfortunately,
at emergency.
Yeah, that happens.
And that's so. What is that? Just like, mate, I'm going to leave you until there's literally no one else in here, and then I'll talk to you.
No, I mean they still do get looked at, but they're at a 2-hour window.
That's ridiculous. So we talk about,
and that's what we're trying to abide by, I guess. Yeah. Those time frames for those people. An emergency should ideally be stuck for the 1s and 2s.
Yep.
And I guess what everyone's not seeing in the weight room.
Yep.
Is all the stuff that's happening behind the doors. So you could get a call from the ambulance service saying that you've got 3 priority 1s coming in. You're already full inside. Where are you going to put them?
Where do you put them?
Exactly.
No, but what happens to those people?
Again, this is the organized chaos of it, and everyone will be seen to, and everyone will have the best service they could possibly have on the day with the staff that are there. Like some of my colleagues are the most impressive people I've ever worked with, and I have no grievances with the people in these facilities. I guess it's the way that it's being run can sometimes be its detriment.
So...
Because someone will have to go to a corridor.
Someone has to go to... So if someone is having a heart attack, but there's not... Like they have to go and get treated in a corridor.
No, someone else will be pulled to a corridor that's already had an assessment done.
But so you're just sitting there and you're like, okay, I've had... Let's just call it my appendix has been taken out, or I've had my script refilled.
It's going to be your appendix out. You're going to be in a surgical ward, not in the emergency department.
Well, let's just say I've split my head open and I've got a big gash. I've had stitches or my head's bandaged. But someone comes in with a heart attack. I'm just sitting in the corridor.
Yeah, or back in the weight room.
Shit.
You have been assessed.
So what happens if in a situation, like hypothetically, where I don't know how many rooms are behind the door, but I'm just going to throw an arbitrary number out. Let's call it 10 rooms.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if 13 people, if you get a call being like, hey, we got 13 Cat 1s coming in? What happens? Like, obviously, the hospitals are full, so if...
I mean, that's a pretty big event to be needing that many people. So,
yeah.
Again, our lovely ambulance services will try and facilitate those ambulances going to different emergency departments.
That makes sense. It makes a lot more sense than 13 people just getting a heart attack and then being out in the corridor.
But also, if you're the closest person for that person having a heart attack, like the statistics on pre-hospital arrests aren't that great if you don't have someone that's medically trained there.
So what's... Yeah, okay.
So if you're the closest emergency department, they should be going to you.
You just fix it. So what's the role of a paramedic in that? Like, I know you're not a paramedic, you're a nurse and it's different, but what's that? Because I imagine that window from getting picked up in an ambulance to getting to the emergency room can take, I don't know, however long it takes. Like, sometimes it might be
trying to navigate pretty horrific traffic and
Yeah,
selfish people that won't move out the way.
It might be more than your 15 minutes for a category 2. So what's... Like, how well are they trained? What's their qualifications?
Yeah, I mean, they all do degrees as well, and they've got the same seniority, so that senior paramedics will be sent to those types of things to be looking at the patients.
That's crazy. Okay, so we're at 2019. We'll go backtrack. We're flopping. We've got back and forth. That's okay. We're at 2019. You're in London, south of London. Not sure why I asked. Never been to England. We move forward a year. You are a 21-year-old in another country, and all of a sudden the world stops. COVID hits, and it's like fucking pandemonium.
Yeah.
What is that like as a nurse in a major city, and you've got the world's ending, and COVID's just struck? What is that like? Run me through what that looked like for you.
I mean, I don't often talk to many people about my time over there because of how horrific it is, and also because of WA being one of the most privileged populations going through it. But I guess it's kind of like that bittersweet feeling that you're in the right place to help where you can, but also that really horrifically scared moment of like, will I see my family again? Yeah.
So we don't have to talk too much in depth if you don't want to, but like we were locked down for like 3 days here. We had the world blew up at the thought of there being 2 cases in the ward, and it was like we were, of any place on the planet, Perth was the best spot to be for COVID, no question, or WA was, no doubt about it. But so you're not in Perth, you're in south of London.
Yep.
You do make it home, so we can talk about it a bit now. Like, you were scared you're not going to see your family again. You did, and you're here, so that's great.
Of course.
But what does that fear actually look like? What materializes in front of you as a nurse in that situation? Like, what's going on?
I guess you just kind of have to put your big girl pants on and get it done, right? Like, people are relying on you for their lives in this instance. It's a very strange one because when it first erupted, like, it was mostly the people that were already sick or the aging population that were hit the worst by it, and a lot of staff going off sick and things like that. I think the worst part is that there was a PPE shortage, so like your protective equipment, so gloves, masks, gowns, things that would keep you from transferring it to other people or you yourself getting it as a health professional, disappeared. Yep. Because we were going through them so rapidly.
Did you get COVID during that time?
I sure did.
How many times?
I've had COVID 4 times now. Yeah.
Did it knock you for 6 or was it?
It did. It was quite horrific because I obviously wasn't vaccinated at the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, as a young person, like, I never thought it would hit me as hard as it did. To the point like I've needed further testing since being like back at home for my lungs and also my heart.
Jesus, bloody hell. That's ridiculous. And
all because, I didn't have the right mask on, and I only had extra large gloves that were left when I was in with someone that was having a heart attack.
So you were with someone that was having a heart attack but also had COVID at the same time. So it's
just everywhere, isn't it?
A perfect mix. That's like...
But I'm not going to step back and not help someone
Obviously.
that's having a heart attack just for the risk to myself.
Just because, you're worried about getting sick. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just going to ask. You don't have to talk about it, but
I'm happy to talk about it. It's just so you're aware of the bitter connotations of it.
I feel like we were very lucky, but as a country we were very lucky. It didn't feel like our death toll was too much. It didn't feel like the hospitals and everything were overrun, but I felt like as a country there was a pretty good job of not having like death pile up and pile up and pile up. A lot of people got infected, but I feel like compared to the rest of the world, we did okay in terms of death. Like for you in that part of the world, like you speak about people coming in for a category 2 and they get pushed out into the corridor. Like what happens when people die? Is it just death? Is it just people just like, well, you're on a hospital?
I mean, that's kind of where it got to.
Yeah.
The daily occurrence. And it got to the point where like sometimes you were having to be there solo, or you're having to treat people in the back of ambulances. Like it's
because there's
no room.
There's no room, and people
there's no room. Yeah, like, and ICU is full because when Delta variant hit in the early 2021.
Yep.
That was affecting 20-year-olds. So 20-year-olds needing intubation because they can no longer sustain an airway. They need a false airway. So the type of people not qualifying for ICU would be someone with high blood pressure, which seems ridiculous.
So, I mean, I have heard out of, let's say, New York, for example, this whole thing of like mass graves in Central Park where people were just bodies were just like, the morgues don't have enough, we don't have anything to do, they're just going there. That might, I don't know if that's hyperbole or not, but like what was the scene like in England?
I mean, yeah, we had a lot of deaths happen, and to no fault of the hospitals, but just because
there was too many people getting it.
Yeah, and I guess like life happens, right? Like they were in lockdown for so long, like there would be elderly people that have lost their wives, so then they take an overdose of their medicine. Then it's also the young kids that have been locked down for so long that they decide to do a joyride at 3 a.m. and crash into something and kill them both.
And so as a nurse in the emergency department, all that stuff is going on while you're still trying to do everyone else that's in these, like someone that has having a heart attack, or someone that has broken an arm, or someone that is...
someone's having a stroke, that's all still happening. But it's also like the sicker the people are getting with this virus isn't qualifying some people to even get an ICU bed or trying to find an ICU bed.
Just off the top of your head, this can be a pretty narrow, like this doesn't need to be a perfect figure, but how many people can a hospital safely hold? Like
every hospital is different.
On average, what was the one you were in England? How many people could go in there and be like looked after properly? Not looked after properly, that's not the right way to put it, but like, you know what I mean? How many people could be in there at one time? What's technical capacity before you start getting overrun? Do you think?
I guess it's like 450 people.
And that would be not comfortable, but that would be pushing the limits of comfortable for the hospital.
Yeah, I guess.
During the peak
depending on the beds, but yeah.
Yeah. During the peak of the COVID stuff over there, Delta hits, everything going on, like 450 is comfortable. How many people at one time do you think were like routinely ripping through there?
But like, I guess that's for the hospital to be comfortable. No emergency department, not even WA, gets to dictate how many people come to it.
I get that. But what would the number, like, how much over that are we talking?
It just increases, I guess, the emergency department's number, and you trying to get people safely to areas that they should be in to be hospitalised.
What's the most packed emergency department you were in? Do you reckon? How many people, like, you walk out into the waiting room? Is it like Japanese trains where they're literally getting pushed in, or? I
guess I only get to really know the statistics for the day, but, like, there was easily 400 people in a day come through the emergency department.
And you got 450, and but that doesn't include everyone else who's actually already in the hospital.
They need to be moved or discharged and looked at other services.
That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So you've got, I mean...
But keep in mind, there is people that are designed to look at the wait room. There are people designed to look at the corridor. But, like, for me, coming from WA, like... that is half my salary working over there. So like a hairdresser in the UK would probably get paid more than a nurse. So why would people want to do it for one?
Yeah, that is true.
And also, like, yeah, just the capacity for the influx of patients over there is just crazy.
Is there overtime in nursing? Is that a thing? Or is it just like my shift is finished, but there's 400 people in the waiting room? I'm a nice person. I'm compassionate by nature. That's probably why I'm doing this. I'm just fucking sticking around for 4 hours. I've got it. Like, people are dying in front of me. I need to be here.
Unfortunately, there is like the handover time. So you hand over to another nurse to be taking over that time. I mean, I'd probably personally take it case to case. Like if I am involved actively in someone's care, like I'm not just going to hand that over if it's a detriment to them. But I am definitely not going to stay over an hour and a half, maybe. Yeah,
okay. Well, that checks out. All right.
But you are constantly asked to do double shifts.
What's a shift length?
So a shift length is usually 8 hours.
Yep.
But in the UK, it was like 13 hours.
Were you pulling doubles in the UK? 26s?
No. But if you needed to stay to cover, so like there's always a float shift as well. So that would finish at like 2 a.m.
Perfect.
So there would be a few times I'd finish at 2 a.m., which wasn't really fun when I rode my bike to work and then we're having to ride it home.
How far was the ride home? That would have been scary.
Yeah, 20 minutes.
Nah, not for me.
No, and not with the type of things that happen in the UK, riding home and things like that. So,
no.
I mean, I started riding my bike over there to not take public transport to work and be infected.
That checks out.
Yeah.
So, okay, when did you move back to Perth? Or back to WA?
I guess mid-2021.
Mid-2021. So, while we'll wrap up with COVID, before and after, what were like, because I imagine even before this, the hospitals have got to have some really strict rules with hygiene and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
What was the like, how much did it change? The procedures in a hospital? Because everywhere else it has. Social distancing was a thing for a long time. Like, people are a lot more mindful of washing hands, staying at home if you're sick, working from home when you're not feeling well, like covering your mouth when you cough, all this sort of shit that, you know, using hand sanitizer. It was common sense for a lot of people.
To start with.
But like, it was like not really adhered to very well around the world. But in hospitals, I imagine, for the longest time, you had to take every measure. Was there a massive increase or a massive difference in the way that a hospital was run? I guess
so, but like going back to like the shortage, you would wear one of the like we call it like a fitted mask, so everyone is tested for one that fits for them so that nothing can get in.
Yep.
So I would wear that sometimes until my lunch break, to the point it was leaving indents into my face and pressure injuries. So yeah, sometimes on a 13-hour shift, that'll be 6 hours.
That's just probably a bit more fitted than the shitty little blue ones that we all got here. Yeah, nice.
Because things can still get in from those blue ones.
So would you not have to wear that before COVID? Was that not a thing?
It is, but it's more for like aerosol things, so like TB and other bugs like that. Like, they were still worn.
Yep.
But not to the extent of how much we didn't really know about COVID and the way it was being transmitted.
Yeah, okay.
Other than that, it was a virus. So for most viruses, we do wear fitted masks.
It's interesting because, like, when I think of the only comparison that I can make, and it's a really stupid comparison, but it was like 9/11 for planes. Before that, you could walk through to the cockpit. There was a curtain there. But then after that, the whole airline industry shifted, and it was like you have to have the fucking secret nuke codes to get into the cockpit. It's double locked, all the rest of it, TSA and the airport security. So there wasn't, but yeah, so there was only a little change, or there was a bit of a change.
Yeah, you could see your like colleagues' faces. You could, the patients could read your lips and understand you, like if they couldn't hear you properly and things like that really changed because you are constantly wearing a mask that's strapped to your face to an aggressive point so that nothing can get in.
Is it still like that now? Has the restriction, or has that
It's
laxed?
case by case based on the patient and what the patient has going on. So it became routine to test everyone for COVID.
Yeah.
So
you still doing that?
Yeah.
It feels like it's just going away.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, we start, obviously, when you have respiratory symptoms, you will get tested.
That also checks out. Okay, let's move away from that. So you finished COVID. You've come out the other side of that. You're back in WA.
Yeah.
You are now... So you're now in an emergency department in somewhere in Perth, undisclosed.
I mean, I quit towards the end of last year, but yeah.
Okay. So we've quit towards the end of last year, but we're staying there. What was it like sort of after that? What was the aftermath of COVID like here? Because you've gone from where it is everywhere over there to come back here and it was like, oh, well, we didn't really have it. But what...
Yeah, I think that was probably the most traumatic part of it all, other than seeing the stuff face to face and the people
was what seeing
that
how
we couldn't save.
Easy or how good we had it here.
Yeah, and the people's understanding of what I had just been through. I guess I had to sit in 2 weeks of hotel quarantine.
Yeah.
And think about everything I just witnessed on repeat, with really delightful deliveries to my door every day to feed me. But no, I did my interview like for the job while I was in hotel quarantine, which is again very different for me.
Yep.
But no, I think it hadn't quite hit Perth then because, didn't quite open the borders. No. And I think selfishly they didn't open the borders because they knew how overrun our hospital system was already. Yeah. So it was kind of trying to save WA in a way.
Yeah, and I mean, this might sound selfish and very ignorant, but like it didn't it? Like I thought I didn't have to live anywhere else and it was great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, anyway, we get there. So let's talk a bit more, not lighthearted, but I
guess my opinion was more that you can't really just turn a blind eye.
Yeah, turn a blind eye to the world.
With health just because of something that's happened. Like we should have always been looking at ways to improve.
And I feel like there was this one thing where I think the government said they were going to build a couple of new hospitals and then they just didn't. Anyway, they should have.
No, they often just add a few extra beds, unfortunately.
Instead of just taking the time to build another one.
They're all pretty old.
That's annoying.
They're all pretty old hospitals we have.
Yeah. So, okay, let's talk some different stuff because I have asked a few questions of some people who know you and have given me some interesting stories about some times that you've had at an emergency department. No names, don't worry about where, don't worry about who, don't worry about anything else. This is not necessarily going to be... What's the right way to put it? This isn't... I don't need you to be in... You can be lighthearted with this.
Yeah.
It can be a bit of fun. I have heard that there is a lot of emergency department stuff that people are walking in with shit up their ass and not actual shit.
Yeah. I mean, everyone loves a foreign body story,
What is foreign body? What is your all-time... Give me your foreign body story. Not yours personally. That's your own, do whatever you want behind closed doors. I'm talking as an ED nurse. What's your foreign body story? What's your go-to?
I mean, it depends because I'm like, there's times in pediatrics where people are just curious about, noses,
that's kids, isn't it?
Ears. Yeah.
What's the note?
I mean, kids stick Lego in their nose and their ears. Of course, they're going to look at other avenues.
I had my youngest cousin when she was... So my cousins are twins, my two younger ones. I'm pretty confident it was the girl of the twins. When she was like, I don't know, 3 months, not even, 2 months old, had obviously found a 5-cent piece on the floor at home, had put it in her mouth and had pushed it up into the roof of her mouth. And like babies are malleable things, the skin had like grown over it. The 5-cent piece was lodged in the roof of her mouth until she went to the dentist like a couple of months later. It was like, the fuck is that? There's a 5-cent coin in here. And it was lodged in the roof of her mouth.
Yep.
Crazy. So that's my foreign body story. I'm sure you have some more. So I'll lead you into this one. I have been told that there was a guy, may or may not have been on meth, who came in with a bottle up his ass.
I mean...
What the fuck is that?
Yeah, men, women, there is a very weird fixation about meth and putting things in bottoms.
Talk me through that. Let's elaborate.
I can't tell you any more other than there is just a very weird fixation that they have to put things there.
You are not on camera. You're completely unidentified.
I mean, I think the weirdest thing...
What's the fixation? I mean,
I can't tell you because I have not done meth myself to know
that
why.
That checks out. We have spoken about meth here on the podcast before. It must be pretty good.
Yeah.
So
But
okay.
that it is a very common occurrence.
So what's the situation? What happens? Do they just walk in and they're like tweaking and they go, "Hey, I've got."
Unfortunately, it's usually the come down period when they decide to seek help.
Okay.
Which is, I guess, I have to disclose, like, you do need to still seek help with this stuff. Like, you shouldn't be put off coming to an emergency department because what's happening. Because unfortunately, for some cases, like, they end up having surgery and end up with like a colostomy bag because they've taken too long to come in.
So what is one?
And they can't find it.
What they can't find what?
Whatever's been put up there. So I think the most rogue thing that has happened is probably like 6 rocks.
What?
6 rocks were found.
6 rocks.
Yeah. And they actually came up pretty well on an X-ray. So, yeah.
So run me through that. What, like, you don't have to say who it was. You
Yeah.
don't have to say, you don't have to say how old they were. But a person has come in.
But I guess you forget that part. Like, it's not my job to ask why someone has come in or why they've decided to do that.
Surely if someone comes in with 6 rocks up their ass, you're asking the question of the doctor at the end, like, hey, mate, what's going on there? Do you figure out, I want to know this?
It's not our place to judge. Right?
I'm not judging, but I would like to.
I would love to be able to answer that for you, but I'm never, like, it's not my place to ask why they've done this.
But we
can advise that it wasn't the best idea.
Obviously. But what's your interaction with the person with 6 rocks up their ass? Like, what do you have to do?
Sometimes you
As in, what's your job?
People think emergency departments are going to tell them off or like get them in trouble with the police and things. So like people,
what's wrong with sticking 6 rocks up your ass?
Yeah, people don't often disclose the full story. So it'll be like, oh, like I tripped and fell over
onto a pebble garden.
Yeah, exactly.
Without my pants on.
Yeah. So you're never really going to get the honest story.
Okay, so you don't have the honest story, but for you, as in like you're the nurse at this situation.
Yeah.
Let's imagine this. So you're the nurse, you're in the back, you're at emergency. I've come in with 6 rocks up my ass.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not telling you why I've done it. I'm not telling anyone why I've done it. I go to the doctor and say, Doc, I've got 6 rocks up my bum. Don't know how they got there. I slipped and I fell and they're in there.
I guess it would probably start with that you have something in your bottom.
Doctor, it's me. Yeah. It's Hamish. I have got I feel something in there that's not a poo. I then go into emergency. I'm somehow ended up there. Fuck, I'm constipated, but it feels like there's rocks in there. Don't know why. They're jagged. It's just it's hurting me a bit. So I've got 6 jagged rocks up my ass. I walk in. I say to the Doc, you got to help me out here. Something's gone wrong. I don't know how it's happened. I've fallen and I've sat on 6 rocks that have perfectly somehow got in there.
Yep.
He says, mate, that happens. Don't worry about it. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
He then directs me through the doors.
Yeah.
Where do you come into it? With this person with 6 rocks in their bum, where do you, the nurse, where do you fit in? Like, what point are you crossing
Yeah, I guess
past?
we do our assessment of them. We check their vital signs. They make sure that they're hemodynamically stable, meaning...
Which means what?
Meaning they're not unwell.
Okay. And this person is well, with the exception of the rocks.
Yeah.
So what happens to the rocks, and where did they obviously have to come out?
We have to talk through imaging and figuring out what exactly is going on in there. But then it becomes your lovely colleagues in the surgical department's problem.
How did the X-ray look? Did you see the X-ray?
I did.
What did it look like? Run me through it.
Just like a bunch of grapes, really. Yeah.
So I don't know the ins and outs of the human body. My ass is here. My stomach's about somewhere here.
Yeah.
The intestines go after the stomach into my colon.
Yeah.
And then out
and
my
they're
ass.
pretty long.
They are very long. Tennis court long, apparently, or something. There's that weird thing. Whereabouts did the rocks get up to? How far up? Like, were they all just sitting in his rectum? Did a few of them, like, all of a sudden, oh, shit, I can feel out coughs a rock? Like, where are we at?
No, most things stay pretty
close to home.
Yeah, pretty close to home to where they've put them.
It is just baffling.
It is, and it's comical, because there is these scenarios that you get to see in between the horrific ones that you just, I guess you never in everyday life are going to understand why someone's done what they've done.
Do you?
But it's never your place as a health professional to judge.
We never judge. Your health professionals are not judging you.
You see the bad side of it when someone doesn't seek medical advice and then they're having emergency surgery or they're quite unwell because they've got something that shouldn't be there stuck.
What would be the issue with me keeping 6 rocks up my bum?
That you would probably get very unwell.
Why?
What do you mean why?
What's the
Well, you think the waste strategy of your body, if you could not do
what? No, well, I
number
imagine,
2.
What if I'm shitting around the rocks?
I mean, like the way it works, they would get pushed out too. That is the hope and dream, right?
That you just shit out what you put in there. That would be so uncomfortable. Imagine giving kidney stones. It'd probably be a bit easier than giving kidney stones, wouldn't it?
Mm.
Kidney stones would fucking hurt. I would not want to do that. Imagine passing one of them. Not for me. All right, so that's one. So I didn't hear the ass up rock story. I heard a guy with meth shove the bottle up his ass. That's one of the things I've heard. The another story that I've heard is...
all confidential, of course.
Obviously, this is all confidential, and, we're not disclosing who or where or what or why or when. But there was an incident involving a sex toy.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Run us through that.
I mean, like, you'll have those people that are like, oh, like, we were going through a bit of a rough patch, and I was just trying to lighten the mood. And then they can't find it.
They can't find it?
Yeah. They can't find what's happened to it or something stuck.
I'll give them a red hot tip. It's gone in a bit there.
Yeah.
So
most people try between their partners to
fish it out.
Yeah, of course.
Does the thing what often happens is that sometimes the thing they used to try and fish it out also gets stuck up in there?
No.
Yeah, that's pretty weird.
It's not like a vacuum seal. Like, not everything just gets sucked up in there.
Well, I don't know. I've never shoved anything untoward up my ass.
No, and I hope you never have to go to an emergency department for that.
I certainly wouldn't want to go in there with rocks on my bum. So the story I have told, and stop me if you can't. Actually, we can talk about it. Who cares? A couple had been having a bit of fun to the point where it was like, okay, we need to go to emergency, and their daughter had to drive them in. Is that something that has happened? Is that a real story, or did I get fabricated that information?
It sounds fabricated.
That would be
you can keep going.
That's all I've heard. They had a sex toy stuck up someone's ass, and they were like,
I mean, I have worked in a lot of emergency departments between the UK and all around WA, up in the Pilbara, the Kimberley, down in the Great Southern. There are people everywhere that decide to do that. And
so it's a common thing?
Yeah.
How common? How many of them do you see a day?
I can't say I've data collected it.
But like, is it a common occurrence to the point where, because for me, if I'm thinking about it from my own point of view.
For you now have a fixation on why people are doing this.
I'm not in the nursing fraternity. I hear a story about someone shoving something up their ass. I will talk about it to people. I think it's hilarious. It's like, fuck, what about this guy who shoved 6 rocks up his bum?
Yeah.
What, as a point, what are you doing as a nurse? Like, how is it that common to the point where if it's like something as generic as a dildo, it's like, oh, well, that's not, I don't even need to tell anyone about that. I don't need to dish that at lunch. Is it only the rocks that get talked about? Is it that common that like you only wait for the weird objects?
No, we don't wait for the weird objects.
So
every single person that comes wanting help.
No, I'm not talking about like you're not knocking people back. I'm talking about like
still with the foreign bodies. Like I'm not surprised. You still got to get it out, right?
Yeah, but no, I'm talking about you go to lunch with your nurse buddies, and it's like, fuck, have I got a story for you? What happened this morning? 6 rocks. Oh, I can top that with a Lego transformer.
I don't think there's one health professional that doesn't have a foreign body story that they have heard from an emergency department.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Pretty fucking funny. Okay, I've got a few more. Let's we're coming up, and I don't want to keep talking about guys shoving things up their ass. So let's roll through. Let's just double check that I haven't ticked off everything. Did I get any more stories from you? Nah, butt stuff. Guy on meth shoving a bottle up his ass. The 6 rocks was a win. I like that one.
I would assume people always ask about like what's the worst thing you've seen or the weirdest thing you've seen, and I guess something I saw was literally a guy had picked up his lawnmower and decided to do hedge trimming with it to the point he had lost 3 fingers on one side and 2 fingers on the other. What was worse is that an hour later, someone else came in with a very similar injury that when I went in and asked, they had said they had watched someone pick up their lawnmower and did hem trimming on their drive home and thought it was a good idea.
So they drove past this bloke and thought, shit, that looks like a good idea.
Yep.
Little did they know he chopped 5 of his fingers off, went to hospital. They've come in later with the same thing.
Yep.
So don't do that.
Don't do that.
That just seems ridiculous. And I mean, there are some people in the world that do some silly things, but I imagine you've seen a lot of silly things in the emergency department. Is that is the weirdest? Like, that would be your weirdest coincidence? Like, this guy's come into ED, seen the same person do it, and he's come in an hour later?
Yeah, I mean, like, my brain would be like a computer with 1,000 tabs open. Like, how do you pick which is the weirdest story? Or remember back to the weirdest story?
What, if you had to pick one more, we'll finish on one more. What, like, give me something that if you're not at a dinner party, because these sort of things don't get brought up unless you're having dinner with us and with me, but let's just call it, you had to think of one. You go to a dinner party, you're sitting around the table, you've got 10 nurses, 10 of your nurse mates, and you're talking turkey. You're just chatting cold cuts. It gets to you, and you've got 2 minutes to be like, righto, you've had your last, by the way, so 9 people have gone before you. You've had time to think about it. You've got 2 minutes, and you've just got to be like, righto, this is the weirdest / funniest / like, I just couldn't fucking believe it. I could not believe this was a thing. Like, I can't believe a guy shoved 6 rocks up his ass. But that is child's play, it seems like, to what you've seen. What is it? And I'm going to give you a minute to even think about it. And I'm just going to sit in silence.
I don't know, again, like, how do you put, like, 7 years into?
You have to. I'm asking. That's the question.
I think, like, the funniest, wildest thing, I think mostly because of the under-resources up in, like, the Kimberley region, was a man that was in a lot of airway concern running into the health facility. Mind you, it's literally just me at that time of day as the solo nurse there for the community.
Yep.
And he had decided to eat a whole sausage. And the sausage had got stuck because he felt something pop in his neck and he couldn't clear it. So it was a medical emergency because his airway was blocked.
That's cat 1.
Yeah, that is a cat 1. That man came straight through. And, like, yeah, we were doing all these maneuvers to get it out. Like, I had called for backup. But, like, honestly, by the time backup comes...
He's dead.
Yeah. So trying to get an entire sausage out of a man's airway was... Yeah. That had to be... Yeah.
So he has just...
downed a whole sausage.
Vacuumed the whole sausage. How big, are we talking like a little chipolata or a little Frankfurt?
No,
or?
like a proper, like,
gourmet.
Woolies barbecue section. Yeah.
What did
Wild.
You do? Did he want to have it after? Like, what was his reasoning?
No, he was like, I am going on a liquid diet for a couple.
What was his reasoning? Because you're the solo nurse.
He said he was in a hurry to get to finish his dinner. Bless him.
Did he have teeth?
Yeah, he had teeth.
And he's just thought, fucking, I'm sucking down a whole sausage.
Yeah. Yeah. So we got it out.
How'd you get it out?
A lot of back slaps, a lot of coughing, some Coca-Cola.
Oh my God. That is crazy. How long was it in there for?
Oh, it couldn't have been long. Probably like 5 minutes max for his drive.
Oh, he drove to the hospital?
He had someone drive him, yeah.
Holy shit. Good on him.
Yep.
Far out. Okay.
Obviously had gloves on and like just...
You did?
Yep.
Did you? Okay, that's crazy. All right, let's wrap things up.
But another life saved.
Another life saved. Another sausage saved too.
Patient.
A happy patient. I'm sure he was. Wonder if he's ever eaten sausages
Accidents happen,
since.
you know.
Yeah, shoving 6 rocks, eating a whole sausage. All right, let's wrap this up with. I've got one question to finish off. This is a serious question. You can answer this however you like. If you were to change one thing in WA about the nursing situation, hospital situation, what would it be? What would you think what's one way to just be like, this is a pretty, not easy thing. It can be big, it can be small. This is going to make it better. For everyone still in it, for all the patients that have to come through, what's your one thing that would make it better and you would change?
I think it's putting the resources and the funding into education programs. So outside of emergency departments and what has brought those patients in, like being able to educate people so that they have the time to ask questions and not feel judged. And then also like have a health professional there that's going to give proper advice. I think to unburden the emergency departments and unburden my colleagues, I think putting more funding into an education program, and there's plenty that are already out there that are dying for some funding and extra nurses, but they just can't facilitate that.
Get the cash out there. Give me some money. And then for anyone who has got a script they need refilled, for anyone who's just got a little cough, don't go to emergency. You don't have to say it, I will. If you got a little cut on your leg, don't go to emergency. You put 6 rocks up your ass, just don't do that, firstly.
But it's also like in this day and age when GPs cost $70 to go to, and so do urgent cares. Like a lot of people.
Drop that money.
Yeah.
Whoever's running for government next, you got my vote if you can bring it under 20. Bring it under a crisp lobster.
There's never an easy answer.
I respect that. Well, that's all we've got time for here. I mean, we could keep going and I could ask you more foreign body stories, which I'm sure I will going forward. But thank you very, very much for jumping on. Thank you for sharing. It was interesting. It was informative. It was fun. It was funny. If you did like that sort of stuff and you have any more questions you want to ask anyone listening along on YouTube, hit me up and I'll find the answers for you later on. But that was very, very enjoyable. Thank you very much for coming on. I hope you didn't give too much away that you'll get in trouble, but I'm sure you won't because no one knows who you are.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
See ya.